On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Metropolis Part 2.
Part 2? Oh, crap. I'll be right back.
I mean, do you have 11 minutes to listen to Part 1? Scenes from a Memory by Dream Theater. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like to talk about it. And today we are I'm revisiting for the 8 millionth time, Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from a Memory by Dream Theater.
This is a haunting album.
It is. It haunts me in the best way possible.
Oh, yeah.
I think I listen to it in its entirety probably once every couple of months. I adore this thing. I don't know what it is. It's my favorite Dream Theater album, one of my favorite albums, period.
Yeah, well, when you go on, which I did, and I'm listening to this on my Amazon subscription, it's the second album that it must be the second most popular Dream Theater album.
I imagine Images and Words is probably more statistically more popular than it. And I believe Pull Me Under is still their most popular song on pretty much any streaming service, because that's probably the only one of their songs that's ever gotten all that much radio play.
That's going to be frustrating for an artist, you know.
Their second album continues to be the most commercially accessible.
We did this 27 years ago.
To be completely fair, though, Dream Theater has never really cared too much about being super accessible.
Right.
I mean, it's far from being like The Residents inaccessible, but if you're not used to listening to prog rock, then if you have trouble with Pink Floyd, then Dream Theater's not for you.
Yeah, Pink Floyd, they're a little too esoteric.
Pink Floyd is too weird for me. I can't handle it. Well, don't listen to Dream Theater.
You know, and the funny thing is, here's the deal: is I got Images and Words new CD. I bought that and I loved it. And I listened to the shit out of it. And then the next one I got was Change of Season, I think.
Okay,
that's one. It's like a bunch of live shit.
Yeah, that was. I'm going back in their discography here to see exactly what the progression of their albums was. Give me just a second to find their discography here. Yeah,
that one had a live version of Deep Purple's Perfect Strangers. I thought it was spot on. It was awesome.
See, a Change of Seasons. When the hell was that? That must be. Yeah, this is. It wasn't a studio album. It must have been a live compilation.
Oh, it was. It was all a bunch of live shit that they recorded. And by the way, this band live. Damn.
Yeah. No, they can. Even Labrie holds it together most of the time, which I mean, we'll get more into it a little bit later, I suppose. How you doing, by the way?
I'm doing great. I'm exhausted. I'm mentally and energetically
exhausted.
I'm just done because Jeff has been gone all week.
Yeah,
so I get there an hour early. And because now I'm doing the weather on our out of town station. I'm staying a little bit later. So I'm getting there earlier, staying later, and
that'll take it out of you.
Right. And plus I'm doing the job of two people in the morning. I'm trying to. And I constantly feel like I'm failing because
well, you only got to do it for a week.
Well, and that's the shitty thing is okay, now I'm in my rhythm. I'm in my stride. Oh, welcome back.
Yeah. And Jeff's back. I mean, that's how it happens. I think for me, as soon, because like I'm also filling in for the midday shift on our sister station as well. And as soon as if I have a stretch where I have to fill in on that station, it's kind of the same thing. As soon as I sort of get into the groove of it and this is how I do a shift on this station, then I don't have to do it for another 2 months. And I come back and I'm like, how do I do this?
Hi, kill me. Name.
Hello, everyone. You're listening to the radio.
That's music.
This is getting into some potentially demeaning territory.
Hi, my name is Cam.
There we go. That's just go make me sound like an asshole.
Completely.
That's better. I'd rather sound like an asshole than the alternative. But yeah, you been doing anything other than being exhausted this week?
Our garden's coming in great. I did some yard work. What the hell did I haven't fixed the motorcycle yet. Maximus got Overwatch.
Oh yeah.
So he's been sort of dominating the living room with that.
I suppose. Is he having a bit more fun with that than he was? Or I don't know about a bit more fun. Is he more successful with that than he was with Apex, where it seemed like your description, Apex Legends, kind of made him a little angry?
Let's just say I hear this sound once every about 5 to 11 minutes.
Okay, I have neighbors, buddy.
It's all right. It's not late. Oh, I'm tasting blood. But no, he does that. What's what he does. And then he will go into a tirade as to what some other character did that was unethical, or they were hacking.
You want to take a drink of their beer?
Or they were cheating. Man, I really went into the role. I really went deep. I went deep on them, didn't I?
That was
oh geez, okay.
A bit excessive.
But he gets excited. Like everybody in the house is like,
what happened?
Is this a terrorist attack right now? Are we about to be shot by somebody?
I hope nobody stay tuned for a knock on the door. Someone wondering if someone's getting murdered in here. Good Lord.
And you know what else he yells?
No.
Help me, I'm being murdered.
No. I mean, how old is he? He's 10, right?
He's 9.
He's 9. So
yeah.
That'll happen.
Sure.
I remember I used to get a lot I still get angry at video games for, I just tend to be a bit less loud about it.
Yeah. Well, sure.
But
you're more of a seether.
Yeah, I am a bit more of a seether.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite alternative rock band. But I tend to, I fume and I'm just a stupid fucking piece of shit, but it's at a comfortable volume.
Sure.
I've never really thrown anything. That some people do that when they get too angry with video games.
He's thrown the controller once.
Yeah,
he threw it and he immediately went into oh shit mode. Like and then he looked around and he saw me and I'm looking right at him. He said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. please don't punch me again.
I hope not.
No.
But I've never really thrown controllers that I can remember. Maybe there's times when I was 11 or 10 that my parents could remember that I can't. But I generally just get a little angry with it. The closest I've ever come to throwing a controller at the screen was I was playing the first Assassin's Creed game.
Sure. And
the penultimate boss battle of that is you have to fight the Grand Master of the Templars.
Wow.
And he is in the presence of Richard the Lionheart. And there's he before he fights you, he sends 13 other Templars to fight you first. And the combat system in the first Assassin's Creed game was fucking awful. It was really, really bad. And
even for the day? Because I never played it.
Even for the day, even for 2006, it was pretty bad, I think. And
so you played it, you were 10 when you were playing it.
Oh, no, this was not in 2006. This was much after the fact. I think this was 2
weeks ago.
Yeah, no, this is 2011, I think.
Oh wow.
Because I got the first 4 Assassin's Creed games and Skyrim for Christmas.
Wow.
I mean, the first 4 games were probably discounted, so I'm sure my mom got all 4 of those.
A bundle.
Yeah, I got all 4 of those for the price of one, basically.
Right.
And then I got Skyrim, which was a new one as well.
What's that?
Yeah, I don't know what Skyrim is. It's this weird, little known indie RPG.
Sure.
Made by some guy named Todd. Todd. Hi, it's me, Todd.
Can I get it on my tablet computer?
Yeah.
Probably
at this point.
What about my smart fridge?
Yeah. And your smart toilet. No, the combat was so horribly broken and I kept on dying. And I'm sure now I could probably complete it with relative ease.
Sure.
But in 2011, I, for some reason, when you're a teenager, I feel like you're supposed to be better at video games.
Yeah, your reflexes should be faster. You should be sharper. Like me, I'm virtually handicapped. I'm so old.
I'm just wondering if I'm stupid or something, because I feel like My reflexes probably are not as good as they were when I was 15.
But you have wisdom now.
But yeah, sure. I have a better handle on game mechanics now, I think, and I understand how things are supposed to work.
Which comes with wisdom.
Whereas back then I would just get frustrated with certain things. But then again, when I started playing Assassin's Creed 2 and then moved up through the series, I had a much easier time with, and it was a similar idea of like, button combos to counterattack and that sort of thing, and count and parry and whatnot. Like, I couldn't figure that out at 15.
Sure.
And I don't know. I don't know why it was so tough for me, but that was the closest I've ever come to almost putting a massive hole in my computer monitor. I think I still have the same. No, maybe did I still have a CRT monitor in my room at that time?
2011?
Yeah.
I have a CRT monitor in my basement and 2 CRT TVs.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a monitor. I guess it was a TV, but I can't remember if I still had the CRT, because I remember my earliest pictures of me playing Skyrim. Like, me and my friend were playing Skyrim separately, and we would like send each other like pictures of stuff we were doing.
Cool.
And the first couple of them was like, wow, Skyrim looks real good in 4:3, everybody. Skyrim looks great in 4:3,
4 inches by 3 inches,
and 480p.
Yeah,
but
I played it on my ancient laptop for the first 650 hours.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
how many frames per second do you think you got?
Like 3 or 4.
Oh,
something
nice.
like that. Yeah,
like a slideshow.
This basically is what it was. In fact, it came on a series of slides.
A flip book. Yeah, it was a flip book.
It was a flip book.
It was a zoetrope. Skyrim, the Zoetrope edition, Todd Howard's latest masterpiece.
I have it on microfiche.
What?
You never heard of microfiche?
No.
Okay. Well, there used to be this thing where you go to the library, and of course they wouldn't have all the books and all the publications available. If it was a big library, they would have it on these tiny, basically they were negatives that they had in a catalog, and you could pull them out and you could put them put them in a slide and enlarge them and look at them.
Okay. I've seen this in films.
It's called microfiche.
I've never heard what it was called, but I know what you mean. I know what you're talking about. I think they still have a number of those in the basement of the library at MSU.
Wow.
I think there is a section of like vintage stuff that they have, essentially, of just like, this is what college students used to have to do back in the day. We transferred all of this to our computers.
Yeah, from papyrus.
It was someone's entire job for a year to transfer all of this shit onto stuff people could use. That must have been...
Yeah.
That sort of like, here, it's your job to update this database. Oh, fuck me.
Yeah.
There's
people whose entire life is that.
Pretty much is just updating databases. I'm sure, and I don't know if they probably work for a company that hires them out to other companies to do that. Or if
independent contracting companies,
It's like, we're bringing in this guy and he's going to be here for a while and you'll never see him because he's down in the basement the entire day. I think there was an episode of the Beef and Dairy Network about that, or there was a guy that went into like their archives and was never seen again or something.
I need to catch up on the Beef and Dairy Network.
Oh God, it's
so bizarre.
It's such a bizarre and such a good podcast. I reckon turn off this podcast, go listen to the Beef and Dairy Network. He's a real professional.
Yes.
But what else I started playing new campaign in Star Wars Saga Edition, which is for those of you who don't know, it's basically Dungeons and Dragons but Star Wars.
Right, it's an RPG.
It's literally Dungeons and Dragons but Star Wars, because it was made by Wizards of the Coast and runs on pretty much the exact same system as the 3rd edition of D&D, just with the certain of the minutia of certain skills changed up a little bit, and the addition of force powers and whatnot. But it's basically the basic D20 rule set that they came up with in the early, in like 1999, I think is when they came up with the D20 system. I'm trying to remember when Wizards of the Coast acquired D&D as a trademark.
That's always going to be weird to me.
That Wizards of the Coast has it, and not TSR.
Yeah, because that was back in the day. Oh, you have a little card game? Well, that's adorable. It's never going to get to the size of TSR hobbies. I mean, of course, D&D is the superpower in this universe.
Then they made $8 billion.
Yeah. Hell, half of it off of me, but I mean...
This little company called Wizards of the Coast with this little card game called Magic the Gathering. That'll never take off.
No, it's two beardy guys in Portland.
I only play Legend of the Five Rings.
My wife played that. She had a few decks of that.
I only know what Legend of the Five Rings is because a YouTuber named Matt Colville made a video basically detailing the entire original storyline of what was supposed to be the only run of that card game. It was meant to be like a pseudo narrative card game that only existed for a limited amount of time.
So like Final Fantasy.
Yeah. This is going to be the Final Fantasy.
This is our last game. No,
we're not going to make 80 more of them.
Nope.
And we're not going to spend years remaking the ones people like the most.
We could be dead tomorrow. I don't know. We're just going to make this one game.
Final Fantasy.
This is it. Yeah.
But I want to see when Wizards of the Coast acquired D&D of the Coast. Because I think, like everybody... It's a very generational thing where you get one generation older than me, and everyone's like, oh, D&D 3.5 is the best edition of D&D. The people, whatever edition of D&D was out when you were 20, you will probably always think is the best edition of D&D.
Second edition. That was when I was 20. Second edition.
Like people will almost always be most fond of that. For me, it's 5th edition. I see the appeal of 3.5. I
not
don't
3, not 4.
Well, 3 is fine. People would play 3.5 because it's 3.5 because 3 was incredibly broken. 3 was fun, but it was way too easy to completely ruin the entire game.
Sure, with kobolds.
And 3, you could still do that.
You can still do that, can you?
It was just a little bit harder.
Right.
And I think things were cleaned up a little bit versus, let's see, when was that? Acquisition of TSR. When did that happen? 97.
97
is when Wizards of the Coast, or around 97 is when they acquired TSR.
Just after my first divorce.
And it was the perfect time to get into some new editions of D&D.
Yeah.
Apparently. But yeah, that's...
I was in radio already.
In radio.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's Star Wars Saga Edition. It's fun. I've played it before.
And it's D20.
It's a D20 system. I've played it before a couple years ago now. And I had fun with that. We eventually switched back to the other Star Wars role-playing system, which is Fantasy Flight RPGs. It's called Edge of the Empire. That's what it's called, which is their own proprietary system that's hard to describe. Is easier to get into, maybe. The nice thing about Fantasy Flight is... when you choose your class or whatever your career in that, you're like dancing along.
Sorry, you put a song in my head when you said Edge of Empire.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when you choose your careers in your subclasses and whatnot, it's all, you can print out the entire thing on the sheet and they have little bubbles that tell you what all of your abilities do.
Cool.
Versus D&D 3rd edition and its related games. Which has 8 billion feats that are all individual and all in the books and spread across 40 different books for each edition.
It's just a sea of shit for you to keep track of.
So if you want to quick reference it, you better pray you can find a description of it somewhere on the internet and copy and paste it onto a digital character sheet that you can have.
Otherwise, it's of no use to you.
Yeah, it can be incredibly hard to keep track of, but what it does provide you with is a lot of opportunities to do a lot of opportunities to do more things in character than you might have in like 5th edition. That's one of the criticisms of 5th edition is that the skills are a bit too broad, and that there are not enough feats that let you be really good at specific things.
Yeah.
There's a decent list of feats in 5th edition, but feats were the thing that you would get in 3 and in Star Wars Saga Edition. That was how you express my character is really good at this thing.
We didn't have feats in 2nd edition.
I don't know enough about how 2nd edition really even worked.
2nd edition was very vague. I mean, and you had some weird mathematical mechanics going, like THAC0. Whose idea was fucking THAC0? That was
where you
dumb.
want to roll lower.
Yeah.
Don't you? You want to roll a lower number?
No, you want your THAC0 to be lower. You still want to roll a high number, but your THAC0 you want a low number.
Yeah.
It's to hit armor class of 0. If you have a THAC0 of 3, you're kicking ass. Or I remember I had a character of a THAC0 of -2.
I think that is a byproduct of the original designers, Gary Gygax, and I'm trying to remember the other original designer, but they were both big wargaming guys.
Sure.
And there's a lot of like weird eccentricities of the early editions of D&D that make more sense if you keep in mind that early D&D was them taking a war game and making it about one person instead of 100.
Yeah, a troop or whatever.
Yeah, instead of having an army, you play one soldier from that army, and some of the weirdness there, like hit points, for example. The term hit points, as I've recently remembered, originated in wargaming from a tabletop game called Ironclads, which was about, it was about the 2 ironclad warships in the Civil War, the 2 original ones with the Monitor and the Merrimack. And basically, this is how many hits you can take before the ship sinks, which can make sense for a ship or for an army. This is, the amount of hits that this formation can take before it breaks apart and everyone runs. It starts to make... It gets confusing for players when they imagine hit points as a player.
As a living thing.
Because I don't care how tough your barbarian is. If you actually got hit with a weapon, the amount of times that a high-level barbarian can get hit with a weapon before they go unconscious, much less die, you would be by, level 15, nothing but a giant teeming ball of scar tissue.
A living pack of hamburger.
Yeah. So you kind of have to do... Most people don't think about it very much, but if it's a problem for you, there are ways to imagine it a bit differently. Matt Colville describes it as a measure of your heroism. It is not a measure of your health. It is a measure of your heroism.
Sure.
These are the amount of heroic tricks you can pull off to avoid dying. And when you run out of those, you get hit and then you're in trouble.
Sure. So maybe you did dodge the weapon, but it took hit points from you.
Yeah. But then that also gets weird because then you run into the problem of spells like Cure Wounds, which heals your hit points, but is also specifically named Cure Wounds and saying that it closes up your open wounds. So if you're not actually getting hit, you don't have wounds. So it's a weird thing that D&D has never really been able to rectify.
Right.
But if you don't think about it too hard.
I've got 42 hit points. I was nearly cleft in twain.
Yeah.
It took 35 damage. But no, that means I got a bunch of hit points left.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I
got hit with a great sword as tall as I am. Or if you're a halfling, I got hit with a great sword 4 times taller than I am. But I'm fine.
Yeah.
I can keep trucking. Yeah, it's a weird... when you get into that part of the systems of almost any RPG system, it gets a bit confusing. Which was one of the nice things about Edge of the Empire. It's specifically, you don't have hit points. You have, it's more specifically called like stamina or grit or something like that. You have grit points and you like lose them progressively as a battle goes on, and you can spend them as like resources to do certain things. It's a much more cinematic sort of system.
Nice.
Battles feel a lot more movie-like, which was a cool thing, especially for a Star Wars game.
Because those are movies.
Yeah, Dems are movies. In any case, we talked about RPGs for
very long time.
Time to talk about something else that's incredibly nerdy, which is Dream Theater.
What's that?
They're a band, Dream Theater, American progressive metal band. Yeah, from New York originally.
Mostly.
They all met at not all of them, but the three core members, three founding members met at Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Right.
But I think some of them are they're kind of from all over, I think. But they were originally called Majesty when they were founded in 1985. Eventually changed to Dream Theater. I think the story I heard was on the recommendation of Mike Portnoy's dad.
Really?
Not necessarily like, you guys should change your name to Dream Theater. It was it was like, oh, that's a cool name for a band. It was because Mike Portnoy's dad was like a radio guy, and I think he owned like a movie theater at some point or something like that.
Or being in radio, he was aware of theater of the mind.
Maybe,
which is what we say in radio. We used to say.
Yeah, it's theater of the mind thing.
Born. Yeah.
I'm familiar with. See, I mean, you're bringing me back to RPGs because that's what people call it when you play like D&D without a battle map. Is we're doing this theater of the mind. You have to imagine everything. But in any case, it was formed in 1985 by John Petrucci, who's the lead guitarist, John Myung, who's the bassist, and Mike Portnoy, who is or was the drummer. And they were at Berklee College of Music and eventually decided to drop out of Berklee in order to concentrate more on their band. And I wonder how many times that has happened at Berklee College of Music. I wonder how many people have dropped out of Berklee
to pursue
music as a career.
Oh man, that would be awesome if there was an interview like something going on for, I have Metal Magazine. If the first question was, so John, do you envision yourself going back to college
at any point? I think at some point, I vaguely remember something about Mike Portnoy going back to college or something like that, or getting an honorary degree or something. I might be getting something completely confused. So I don't take my word for that, but I vaguely remember something to that effect. There were some lineup changes early on. Their first studio album was called When Dream and Day Unite. It was far from a hit. Not very successful for them generally. The Wikipedia entry says was released in 1989 to far less fanfare than the band had anticipated. And they ended up after their fourth show touring for that album, their original vocalist Charlie Dominici was let go because the band had begun to feel the limitations of his voice.
Wow.
And so they hired this nice French-Canadian gentleman named James Labrie. Jean Labrie.
Oh, big fashion.
If you've never listened to an episode where we talk about Dream Theater, I constantly have to mention James Labrie's puffy face. Yeah. He's got a big face.
He does. It's fine though. I mean,
no, he is.
We shouldn't judge somebody on their face.
Oh no, he's got an extremely defined jawline. He looks like Fabio.
Yeah.
For the most of his career, he's looked a lot like Fabio.
Yeah, a cross between Fabio and the actor who was in Samurai Cop.
Matt Hannon?
No, not Matt Hannon. No, he's dead now.
Sorry, you're talking about, Robert Z'Dar.
Robert Z'Dar, yeah.
You're talking about Robert Z'Dar.
Robert Z'Dar and Fabio.
Fabio, sure. Robert Z'Dar's gigantic chin.
Yeah. I mean, he had an actual medical condition, cherubism.
Cherubism, which resulted in his massive chin. So they joined up with James LaBrie, and eventually their first album with him would be called Images and Words, which was very popular, as we've discussed. It was by far, I think, they're still one of their more commercially successful albums. It was also a critical success.
I have it on CD somewhere in my CD boxes, because I really don't spin CD. I have nothing I could spin them on.
I mean, you could maybe
a laptop.
Put it in your PlayStation.
Oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah,
you could put it in your PlayStation.
I have 2 PlayStations.
There, you can put it in one of your PlayStations.
Yeah.
But Images and Words had a song on it. That song was called Metropolis Part 1, The Miracle and the Sleeper. They had no part 2 in mind when they wrote it.
Right.
As I understand, they had recently watched whoever the main songwriter on that was, I think it was Portnoy, had watched a movie called Dead Again. And the song was very loosely based on it. It had...
That sounds very familiar, Dead Again. I feel like I've watched that.
It's a movie
VHS.
very much in keeping with the themes of this album, which is it's all about past lives, past life regression. It's about romance and murder, and it was Kenneth Branagh and why can't I remember?
A young Kenneth Branagh.
Dead Again. Let me look at the cast here. Kenneth Branagh.
Was it Linda Carter?
And Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson.
It was Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson were the two...
Because they were British.
Primary, yes. The two primary cast members there. And it was very loosely based on... It was an inspiration, as I understand.
Right.
Or at the very least, it was an inspiration for the full album that would come 8 years or 7 years later. Because a lot of fans were like, hey, we really like this song. When are you going to make a part 2? And they're like, oh, okay, I guess.
And we'll make a whole album part 2.
We'll make a whole album. Why not? Leading up to them making this album, they had Portnoy and Petrucci had collaborated on an album called Liquid Tension Experiment, or a side project called Liquid Tension Experiment, which was a purely instrumental progressive metal outfit. And they had hired on a keyboardist whose name was Jordan Rudess.
Sure.
And they introduced Jordan to the rest of the band, and they went, oh, this guy's really great. We kind of want him. And so this is kind of a shitty situation, but their keyboardist at the time, he was a member of the band, but he was mostly, he's a guy who's
a touring member.
It was Derek Sherinian, who's mostly known as being a touring member and a session musician and that sort of thing.
Sure. He was a hired gun.
And I'm sure it still stung a little bit.
Sure.
Because he was with them from 94 to 99. But they had to call him on a conference call and fired him that way.
Oh.
Mostly because they were in New York and he was in LA.
Oh, sure.
Or maybe it was the other way around, and they didn't want to fly him across the country just to say, you're fired.
Why didn't they shoot him a text?
Because it was 1999. They could have given him a message on his beep. On his
beeper, yeah.
Yeah. On his pager.
When did I get my first cell phone?
I don't know.
I had to have been about 24, 25. No, I was much older than that. I was closer to 30 years old when I got my first cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old was I when I got a cell phone? I want to say it wasn't until I was like 14.
Really? Wow.
It was 13 or 14 when I first got a cell phone. But in any case, they were already in the process of hiring Jordan Rudess when they fired this guy, which is kind of not super great. That's kind of a dick move, but it also brought in Jordan Rudess, who is an insanely talented keyboardist.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It's like on this album here. This is Jordan Rudess, right? Yeah.
Yes. This was their first album with him.
I can't tell sometimes what's John Petrucci and what's a Jordan keyboard. Yeah.
He's that, and that's sort of the thing that I love is they don't need a rhythm guitarist because they have a keyboardist that at times sounds like it might as well be a guitar.
Yeah.
He is like that fluid and fast with it.
It's amazing.
And he is that skilled at switching between effects. And I don't know.
Which you would have to do because he uses one goddamn keyboard.
Yeah, he uses one keyboard. A lot of keyboardists in rock bands
will have a stack of
keyboards. Each with different effects loaded on them. Jordan Rudess uses one. And I'm sure he's got
pedals. He's
got pedals and foot controls and all kinds of stuff, but that's still impressive.
Yeah, 100%.
To be able to switch at will all those things on the same board. That's super impressive.
Yeah.
I think that lineup of Labrie, Myung, Portnoy, Petrucci, and Rudess is like the mightiest lineup that they've ever had, more or less. And it is basically still the same today, sans Mike Portnoy.
Sure.
This was their first album with that configuration. And
it's like Jordan, Pippen, Kerr.
Yes, it was.
And Rodman.
It was the Chicago Bulls of progressive rock.
I watched that, by the way, recently. I told you that, didn't I?
Yeah. What's it called again?
The Last Dance.
The Last Dance.
You know, and I'm never into basketball. No, I never cared for it. But watching this, this was fantastic. I recommend it.
I mean, it's a legendary era of the sport, and it's a legendary team. It is. It's Michael Jordan,
and you're watching something, and it's fantastically done, and it's about some fan-fucking-tastic people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Michael Jordan at the height of his career was probably, without question, the most famous person in the world.
Yeah.
Yes. Like it would be very hard to find someone that was more known than Michael Jordan.
And they show that in this series. I mean, everywhere he goes. I mean, he could have stepped off the helicopter in Antarctica, with these goddamn emperor penguins.
The penguins
coming up.
would be like, "Holy shit, it's Michael Jordan!"
Sign my ball.
Yeah.
I can't do a good penguin impression.
That was admirable. Your effort there was very.
It's kind of what they sound like because it's kind of gravelly when they do it. But
I want you to do that in your show tomorrow at some point on the air. I'm Cale Borner.
I'm Cale, the penguin Borner.
Yeah. I have my son between my feet.
I'm keeping him warm while his mother is out getting food. But in any case. So this album, what do you think? I mean, I've already kind of said, and maybe you looked up the concept on your own. What do you think the concept of the album is?
I didn't. Excuse me, I did not look up the concept. I just listened to it. I wanted to hear the music. I wanted to hear what they were doing as far as that goes. That happens to me with a lot of shit. In fact, the stuff that I listened to when I was a teenager and until I was like 40, then I listened to it and I went, "Oh, this is all about the Holocaust."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. I just thought there's some cool solos and shit. I didn't. I don't know what it's about.
Okay, so I'll let you in on essentially what it's about.
Okay.
Like I mentioned, it's partially inspired by that movie Dead Again. The basic idea, the basic plot of the album, and it's not necessarily like the plot isn't one for one, song by song, more or less, but it's kind of presented in acts. But the basic idea of it is in the, I want to say late 20s, because there's Overture 1928 is what it's called. In the late 20s, there is a love triangle between these three people. There's Victoria Page, and then there are these two brothers, Edward and Julian Barnes or Baines. I can't remember. I got to look at the page of it.
They're brothers.
Yeah, they're brothers.
And one is a werewolf and one's a vampire.
Yes. Yep. And they sparkle, and the werewolf is always taking his shirt off. I'm starting to see some similarities here. I think that woman ripped off Dream Theater.
Oh shit! Or maybe retroactively, Dream Theater ripped off that woman.
They traveled into the future and ripped off.
E.L. Fudge or whatever her name is.
No, that's you're thinking of the woman who wrote 50 Shades of Grey.
That's 50 Shades of
which is
Grey.
itself a ripoff of Twilight.
Right.
by Stephanie Meyer.
Stephanie
That's her
Meyer.
name,
That's
Stephanie
right.
Meyer.
Yeah, E.L. Fudge. Those books were hilarious.
E.L. James.
E.L. James, not Fudge.
Yes, E.L. Fudge.
That's a cookie.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is it? It's Julian and Edward Baines.
Yes.
So Victoria is in a relationship with Julian, but Julian is kind of a dirtbag. He's addicted to cocaine and gambling. And she decides to break it off with him after she's been having this affair with his brother, Edward.
Right.
And eventually...
the original Baines comes back and he blows up the stock market.
Yes.
Yeah.
But eventually she decides to cut things off with Edward after her and Julian reconcile. Edward is very unhappy about this and decides when the two of them meet up, he is going to murder both of them, which he does. And we don't find this out until the very last song on the album. He frames it as if Julian murdered her and he simply witnessed it. And he plants a suicide letter on his brother's body.
Wow.
And gets away with it scot-free. Years later, there's a man named Nicholas who decides he's been having weird dreams about this woman named Victoria. He seems to know a weird amount about her. He finds out she was real. Oh, I got a text message from somebody.
Probably from Gene, because we both got it at the same time.
Time sheets. I already did mine. But he's having these weird dreams and about this woman who was real and got murdered. And he eventually decides to undergo past life regression therapy. And he essentially discovers that he was Victoria in a past life. And he's trying to figure out the mystery of her murder. But he kind of gets it wrong. He believes essentially the official story that Julian killed her and then he killed himself and doesn't get the full picture. And then he leaves the session with his therapist, goes back home, and the closing moments of the album, we find out that the therapist he's been seeing is the reincarnation of Edward, and shows up at Nicholas's house and kills him.
And this is the premise of the movie Dead Again.
It's loosely with Dead Again. Different characters, different premise essentially, and a different ending. Dead Again has a happy ending, more or less, versus the ending of this album is a fair bit more bleak.
Which is always a better ending,
I suppose. At least if you're Stephen King with The Mist. He prefers the ending of the movie to the ending of his book.
Best ending for a movie almost ever.
It is an amazing way to end a movie. Incredibly bleak. But a great way to end a movie. Really, really, really brutal. So that's the basic concept of the album, and there's a lot of moments in the album where when you listen to it enough, you kind of realize this part is Victoria talking to Nicholas and trying to warn him hey, you're getting it wrong. This isn't what happened. And Nicholas doesn't understand what he's hearing, basically. And so there's lots of mystery and romance and all this sort of stuff involved in tragedy. And I just think it's a really neat concept for an album. And there's so many little details. It just lyrically, music, everything. There's part of the reason why I've listened to it so many times is every time I listen to it, I pick up something new.
Wow.
This is one of those albums that's so packed with musical detail that I never get sick of it because there's always stuff I've missed.
This would have been an album that I would have listened to twice, because I actually liked it that much. I enjoyed it enough to where I would listen to it twice because just the I have to use the D word, the dynamics.
Yeah.
Of it. Because between songs, you get this great sort of rock and almost speed metal parts.
Yeah, there's parts like that.
And then suddenly we get this, there's one, and then there's something like fucking ragtime in there.
Yeah, there's jazzy parts.
It's great.
Which I think sort of fits with the 20s aesthetic.
Totally, it's in there. I mean, and you know what's funny about Dream Theater is they really, they're brilliant musicians,
Yep.
and as far as technicality goes, and as
Yes.
far as writing goes, but they definitely show their influences. They 100% wear everything. I mean, this is great, but it's obviously influenced by these 1,000 other things,
Yep,
and they show that in their work.
Yep, there are guys that are massive fans of other bands like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Band is listed on the influences for this, and
which would be the Beatles.
Even on the I mean it's late progressive Beatles, but it's even what are you doing over there, Kat? I think she's chewing on a cord or something.
Not good.
But anyway. I think also listed on the influences was OK Computer by Radiohead, of all things, which I thought was a little weird.
Have you ever listened to that album?
I've not listened to OK Computer.
You know what? As a guy who likes music, you should give that a spin. At least once.
I should just listen to more Radiohead, period. Yeah. Because it seems like there's a lot of like mainstream, not mains. I mean, Radiohead's fairly mainstream, but like more mainstream
fringe
prog,
mainstream.
More that area of prog bands that I haven't listened to,
right?
That I should give a try.
You know, it's fun when you do that. You give this. I never would have thought to listen to this, and you listen to that, and then you understand these 6 things over here.
It's
I get this shit now.
Now that makes sense.
No, I mean, this piece wasn't there. And the reason I didn't listen to this, by the way, a second time, is because of my son. My youngest son. He was playing the video game, and he was sucking at it. And he came up to me and said, "What are you listening to, Dad?" I said, "Listening to Dream Theater." I said, Can I listen to it? Yeah, I would love it if you listen to this.
Go ahead.
And he put it on his head, and he's like, "Oh, I love this." And he disappeared. He fucked off. He went out of the room, and he's playing Overwatch, and he starts kicking ass at it because he's listening to Dream Theater. He credits that with him getting like 20 kills in one session.
Well, here's the weird thing is that like music often has the opposite effect for me on multiplayer shooters, like especially something that does not have a consistent time signature, right? Like this, which is especially in the Dance of Eternity, every 2 seconds the time signature changes. I cannot. Part of the reason why Doom works for me so much is, I mean, those are songs designed to be in a video game. Mick Gordon's soundtracks are supposed to be in a video game, and they have I mean, the time signatures aren't always conventional, but
here's the funny thing.
They're consistent.
One thing you don't notice, he changes time signatures in his soundtrack, and he has a trick. I want you, next time you're listening to the soundtrack to Doom, I want you to play this in your head. It fits.
Yeah.
It will always fit.
And that's, I think, part of, I think that's a side effect of Mick Gordon being mostly an EDM musician.
Sure. And it's definitely wink, wink.
It's the heaviest house music you'll ever hear.
It is.
It's the most violent and satanic house music in existence.
It is fabulous.
And it works great for a video game.
Yeah.
Whereas
and I'm sure it's designed that way.
Like I've played video games while listening to death, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't work for me.
I'm gonna put in individual thought patterns and try to play this thing where I need
on the
timing.
Sound of Perseverance and see if I can keep up the beat with the video game I'm playing. Right. It doesn't really work that way for me, but I'm glad Max liked it.
Oh yeah, he loved it. He's like, in fact, he was kind of mad that I was taking my phone with me tonight. I gotta take my phone. Well, I might need it while I'm out. I don't know what's going on. I said, well, I was hoping you could leave it so I could get more
listen
kills.
to Dream Theater.
Yeah, he wanted to listen to Dream Theater.
I mean, that's
tear, my little metalhead.
I mean, that's when you need to be like, hey, if he's been listening to the same album, but otherwise you can be like, there's 30 years of more Dream Theater for you to listen to here.
And if you like metal, just ask Dad.
Yeah, just if you want more stuff like this, I would rather you get it from me than somewhere.
I'd rather have you do it at home than be out in public and get into an accident or get something that was unsafe.
We wouldn't want you to get in trouble.
I don't want you to be out with friends and start listening to Anal Cunt and I want you to be at home and do the stuff that Dad approves of.
Yes. Just but supervised. That's all that's all that matters is that you're supervised. But anyway, I think we mentioned this last summer when we talked about the album that followed this up, which was 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence.
Yes.
There are times with Dream Theater, many, many, many times, probably once per song, that feels like now everyone in the company is going to...
I hate group text.
Everyone in the company has to chime in. Time to put the phone on silent. But there are times on every Dream Theater album where it feels like they're competing against each other.
Yeah.
This is competitive musicianship.
Exactly.
It's very impressive to listen to. One thing on this album, I wish John Myung had a few more chances to really shine.
Right.
I mean, he's always there. He's the bass
player.
He's an insanely good bass player. And like, there is a lot of value to being able to lay down a basic but really, really solid bass line. John Myung, on the other hand, if you really pay attention in most of the songs, he's going
everywhere.
He's going everywhere. He's going all over the place with the bass line, which I'm impressed by. Very impressed by. John Myung, by the way, looks exactly the same today as he did in 1999.
Oh yeah, John Myung he has a painting in his attic.
His face is dying. His cheekbones are perhaps a little bit more defined. Sure. His face is just ever so slightly less boyish than it was in 1999. Other than that, he looks exactly the same.
So I'm just imagining Cale somewhere in New York. He's 103 and he's there with his great grandchildren and walks by an Asian bass player.
Is that John Myung?
What are you?
The man with the 6-string bass. That's the other thing that I think is interesting because, I mean, we recently listened to an album with a lot of 6-string bass.
Yep.
Very highly featured 6-string bass because it's the only guitar style instrument on it, which is Mirror Reaper. But
it's the only stringed instrument.
There's not a lot of other like prominent musicians I can think of that regularly play a 6-string bass. Then you got John Myung. Yeah. I suppose Les Claypool.
Yeah.
But like you got John Myung who's up there just doing his thing.
Yeah. Of course, Davey 54 would not be happy. But
play it on a 4-string.
For 6-string is not epic.
6-string is not epic bass. But I saw a meme once which was like hot Asian fingers Black Beauty, and it was John Myung with a black color, a black bodied bass.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious.
He plays finger, doesn't he? He doesn't.
Yeah, he plays finger style.
He does not use a pick.
Does not use pick. Epic. Occasionally he slap. But there's so much variation on this. There's so many insane effects, and it's just so much work went into this. And this is also the first album that they more or less produced themselves.
What year was 98, you say?
99.
99. I'm wondering how much of this is digitally recorded. I mean, is it?
I don't know. Let's see if I can find this on the page.
Because this is one of those things that if I listen to this, and actually if you listen to the like images and words, that was like technically perfect within a tolerance of 1 million microseconds.
And that was 1991.
That was 1991. I mean, just listen to that and like Dark Angel. Did you ever listen to Dark Angel?
I have not. I think maybe a little bit, but not extensively.
About the same year, you would swear it was done on a computer and cut perfectly digitally, which it in was Pro Tools not. I mean, it was just
it's just really clean,
extremely tight.
I see. It was at Bear Track Studios in Suffern, New York. Let me see if. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily say how it was recorded. It did say, though, that their record label, which at the time was Elektra Records, the record label gave them basically creative free reign because I think they had like tried to, with Falling Into Infinity, they had tried to make it a little bit more like radio ready.
Right.
And that didn't work. Right. And so Elektra was just like, fuck it, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And the result was this amazing piece of art.
Right. Fantastic.
The other thing about this album, is that there are a number of like radio drama-esque pieces that sort of bookend the album.
Sure, yeah, like the last track comes in.
And also play at certain points. The beginning of the album, one of the things that I think is so neat about the way this album starts is it is Nicholas sitting down for the beginning of his hypnotherapy session, and it is... Like if you sit down to listen to this album and close your eyes as the hypnotist asks you to do,
you might actually become hypnotized.
It makes it that much easier to listen to the whole thing in one sitting.
Yeah. You get to the end and suddenly you go, what? Oh shit! I was going to listen to Dream Theater.
Yeah, I better
play this album.
I find this album so relaxing.
Oh
in a lot of ways. It's because it just eases you into that.
I can't be hypnotized, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, you can't be hypnotized because you refuse to be hypnotized, because if you don't want to be hypnotized, then you can't. That's how it works.
That is how it works. So somebody goes, I'm going to hypnotize you. I'm like, no, you're fucking not.
Yeah. I think any hypnotist that is any good at what they do would agree with you. Like, of course you can't be hypnotized. You don't buy into it.
Right.
That's part of what it is. That's when they say it's suggestion.
Sure.
They mean that literally is, I'm suggesting you do this and you're kind of half asleep right now, so you want to do it.
Wait, and you know the funny thing is I can't be hypnotized, but I'm really open to suggestion. Like today, I went to the line at Burger Time and they suggested I get the chili cheese dog.
It's because you wanted it.
Well, only at their suggestion. Should I know they had it until I saw it?
You didn't know you wanted it. You didn't know you wanted it. But damn it. This is, I think, one of those albums because, I've talked a little bit before about how James LaBrie is kind of the weakest member of the band.
Sure.
And that's partially by virtue of the rest of the band being
virtuosos.
Being virtuosos. And James LaBrie's just a good singer.
He's a great singer.
And part of it, he fits. I can't imagine this album in most Dream Theater albums with anybody else.
Yeah.
And part of it is because he has such an incredibly warm and emotional and emotive voice.
Great range.
He has really good range. Yeah. And part of any struggles that he's had can kind of come back to, he was on vacation in Cuba in 1994 and got an incredibly bad case of food poisoning and ruptured his vocal cords while vomiting. And basically he's stated that he did not, this was in 1994 and he has said that he didn't feel that his voice was perfectly healthy again until 2001.
Jeez. You have to realize that of the members of the band, he's the only one whose instrument is made out of meat.
Yeah, that is the other thing. And I think it's easy to look at recent live performances of Dream Theater and say wow, LaBrie really sucks. And it's like, dude's in his 50s at this point, I think. And he's been in this band for 30 years and, has this amazing range. He's not going to be as good as he was.
Sure.
That happens with everybody. But he's so good on this album. He's great. And like I said, I cannot imagine this in anybody else's voice.
Right.
And there's a number of slower songs on this album that are kind of slow, very emotional songs that really play to his strengths of the warmth in his voice. I think it just works really, really well with him and with everybody. This is kind of the perfect Dream Theater album, in my opinion. There is what song is it on here? I think it's Beyond This Life. Pretty much anytime I've thought, how do I show, what song would I play to somebody and say, okay, this is what Dream Theater is like? It would be Beyond This Life. Generally, it's got the most range of any song. Is that? That is Scene 4.
Scene 4. You all right?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I feel better now.
Good.
I think that is, I want to say that is the song that is Our Deeds Have Traveled Far, is one of the main vocal chorus. It's progressive metal. There's not a chorus anywhere. I don't know why I'm saying it that way.
Chorus.
There's not a chorus on this here song. But I guess criteria. This is kind of a feature episode, so I kind of said fuck it to the criteria. But I did write it down. Slap. I said at times.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it slaps occasionally. I mean, it's one of those. It's like a roller coaster. I mean, you listen to this great, powerful metal song, and then you go into something that's just this beautiful, stringy, keyboardy. Wonderful thing with James just singing. And it's so beautiful. And then that song goes up into a metally part, and then back down, and then the next song kicks you in the ass.
I don't know how the fuck Portnoy and Petrucci wrote any of this shit. Like it's one thing playing Dance of Eternity. How the hell do you sit down and write that? How do you write any of that music? I just don't. I don't have. I have a couple musical bones in my body. It's like my pinky toe.
Well, but you listen to a lot of it.
I listen to a lot of it, but
I have a love for it.
Yeah, I have a love for it, but I don't. I have.
But if it's like a fish looking up, going, "How do I climb that tree?"
Yeah, you know basically. Like I don't understand how you write something like Dance of Eternity. The song where James LeBrie steps off stage for a moment to grab his tambourine.
or sinks back into the shrub.
Yeah, so he can spend the next 7 minutes on stage just being like, good job, guys. I'm here too. The score was high.
Yeah.
The two ones that are on the album page on Wikipedia, or they have 3 scores rather. All Music is 4 out of 5. Rock Hard gave it a 10 out of 10. Metal Storm gave it a 10 out of 10.
The gay porn site?
The gay porn site Rock Hard. They were big fans of all the leather pants and the long hair and everything.
Sure.
It debuted pretty well on a lot of different charts, and a lot of different magazines have named it as one of the best rock or metal albums of all time. And what was it? Prog Report named it the number 3 top 50 modern progressive rock albums. Pop Matters, Jordan Bloom from Pop Matters called it the greatest progressive metal work of all time.
Wow.
Some people list it as the best Dream Theater album. Other people will usually list Images and Words, but it's usually 1 or 2.
Sure.
It's my favorite Dream Theater album, and I think it's their best. What was your favorite song on here?
I don't know why, but the song that caught me the most was Scene 6, Home. I don't know why. Yeah, that song
Home is really good.
That song really hits me. I don't know why.
Is it because of the orgasm noises in the middle?
Maybe.
That always I'm like, oh yeah, this is the one with the orgasm sounds in the middle. Because there is a behind the music, basically there is a another one of those radio drama things where it's basically illustrating Julian is out gambling and doing drugs,
right,
and
being hedonistic.
Edward and Victoria are at home fucking,
being hedonistic,
all 3 of them were awful people.
Yeah.
And when 2 of them decided to stop being awful people, they died. But my favorite song, I really like the album closer, as has been discussed many times. I'm a sucker for an album closer. I think Finally Free is really good. I think the crescendo of Finally Free
it's awesome.
Is great. And then the slow fade out of basically dueling, like this really heavy riff from John Petrucci, and then Mike Portnoy just going nuts. There's a video I'm going to show you once we're done. It was from their last live performance on the big tour for this album that took place in New York.
Okay.
And it was a live performance that was so legendary that after delivering his last drum solo to the end of Finally Free, as soon as the lights went off on the stage, Mike Portnoy collapsed.
I have seen this.
Yeah, I think I showed it to you.
Yeah, you did.
He had to be dragged dragged off in an ambulance.
That was the last night he was ever had a drink.
Yep, that was he got done with his tour and went, okay,
lifestyle change.
I'm going to be sober now, and that's when he started writing the 12-step suite.
Right.
Which I'm so glad he got to finish before things kind of fell apart with Dream Theater.
Before he died, yeah.
Before he died.
Yeah.
Before
which he hasn't done yet. Yeah.
Before his musical career died.
Oh, terrible.
He's continuing. He's working.
Yeah, so I saw him on the internet playing in a Hello Kitty set.
That's a great video. But the drum solo in that video, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And it's even more incredible to think this guy is 5 minutes away from passing out.
He's 5 minutes away from being carried off stage.
Yeah. Traditionally, I've also said The Spirit Carries On is my favorite song. It's so incredibly beautiful. That is the crescendo of the album, I'd say.
Is that the second to last song?
Yeah, that's the second. That's scene 8. And part of that is also, it's kind of tragic because that is Nicholas thinking, I've figured it out and I feel good. Yeah. And then he goes home and he gets murdered because he was wrong.
Right.
He didn't figure it out. Because One Last Time basically ends with, if you pay attention to the lyrics, it is Victoria trying to get Nicholas's attention saying, no, stop. You're gonna die. That guy you're in the room with. And then tragedy.
And scene. Yeah.
From a memory. But what medal are you bestowing upon this? Yeah, it's gold. I didn't even get to listen like Miles.
Yeah, no.
It's gold.
It's gold.
Gold. God, this is some strong beer.
I know. Are you feeling a little bit of a whoop?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit of a whoop.
Yeah.
Anyway, next week, what are our plans?
Next week, because I talked about it, I feel like I'd like you to listen to it. And it's my favorite album of theirs.
Okay.
Time Does Not Heal by Dark Angel.
Dark Angel, okay. Yeah. Remind me again, genre for Dark Angel.
Dark Angel would be thrash metal, technically. Gene Hoglan was their drummer.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay.
This is an album from 1991. I have that on CD in my basement as well.
Dark Angel Band.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thrash metal. They just list thrash metal as genre. So, all right, I'm into it. Let's Dark Angel next week. Gene Hoglan, the machine drummer.
Yes, the Atomic Clock, as they call him.
The Atomic Clock.
Yeah.
That speaking of just prolific and talented drummers, Gene Hoglan, my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't really have any specific plans as we continue to go in. I think... Yeah, I have.
What are we at? We're at July. We're going to be in August.
We're going to be into August. It's a non-metal month soon in September.
Yeah.
But
I have some ideas there.
Yeah, I know you do. We'll get into that. I guess.
All right.
Anyway, so till that happens, check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. You'll get updates when we post new episodes, or if you want those updates beamed directly to your cellular device
or
your brain sometime in the future, it's going to happen. Cyberpunk 2077.
Sure.
We'll probably actually have the technology from Cyberpunk 2077 before the game comes out.
Right.
If you want it beamed directly into your phone, if you've got an Android, download the podcast source, which is Libsyn's dealio, because that's basically the only one we're on. I should get us on more of them, but that'll probably cost me money somewhere along. We're also on your iOS device.
Quickly
in your podcast app. Time to get it over with. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Ron's Metalist Podcast. I think I'm still Kale.
I used to be OJ. Congratulations.
Silver and gold.
Silver. I haven't seen that for years.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yeah, it's been a while for me too. I something about those. What is it? Is it Rankin and Bass claymation ones?
Yeah.
Something about those.
The Frosty the Snowman.
Yeah. Something about those claymation ones is frightening to me.
You know, it's funny if you look back on the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer story. I mean, as told, especially in that particular movie, it's a horror movie.
It's kind of, yeah.
It is a horror movie. First of all, this guy's getting bullied.
Yeah.
He's getting fucking bullied by all the reindeer. And who's enabling the bullying? Goddamn Santa Claus.
Santa Claus does not give a shit.
No, he doesn't. What an asshole.
What an asshole, that Santa Claus. And it's only when he needs that specific skill that suddenly that physical deformity has become valuable to him.
Which, stupid, that shit doesn't work. That shit doesn't work at all. Oh, yeah.
You can't shine a light through the fog and suddenly see.
No, you can't. That's not how physics or light works.
It's only if there's another light that is bright enough that you can see, that you can navigate. But that's how lighthouses work.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer helps other shit not to hit them.
Yes.
There's a mountain, but we're all dead, Santa.
Yeah.
No kids get presents.
No kids. We couldn't throw that one misfit toy that specifically said it could not fly off of the sleigh. You ever notice that? The misfit toy that's like, I have wings, but I can't fly. And then when they're flying and distributing the toys, one of the elves grabs that toy, looks at it, and throws it off of the sleigh.
Because fuck that toy. Yeah, that's a nightmare. That
Bumbles is fucking terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
The Abominable Snowman. That sound is forever drilled into my head.
Nightmares.
And it's nightmarish. It's a horror. As an adult, like looking at it, it's like, oh, that's not too scary. But if you just listen to the sound, it's fucking horrifying.
Yeah, or the prospector pedophile. I mean, clearly.
Or the fact that, okay, Bumbles, clearly a carnivorous creature.
Right.
What does the dentist do? Pull out this hyper carnivore's teeth. What they neglect to tell you is that Bumbles starved to death.
Of course he did.
Unless they fed him like a slave, like they keep him tied up and they're like, all right, Bumbles, time for your steak that you'll have to swallow whole because you have no teeth.
And he was confused anyway. Did you notice Bumbles' teeth? Bumbles' teeth were like human kind of teeth.
Yeah.
He was not a carnivore. His teeth were made for more of a gnashing, and he should have found vegetation.
I mean, when you live on the North Pole,
you're not going to. So that was really confused.
There were trees in that movie, though, which is weird because there's not land in the North Pole.
No. And why is it that anytime we portray a dentist in a movie, he's a psychopath?
I think it's because we all secretly believe dentists are psychopaths.
Doug, if you're listening, I don't mean you.
I mean,
he's my dentist.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, we're not talking about you, Doug. But I mean, Doc Holliday.
Sure.
Killed a bunch of people.
Yeah. Also
a dentist.
Yeah, psychopath.
I don't know about a psychopath, but he definitely murdered some people.
Okay, I want you to rectify those A and B statement there.
Hey, there are people who have killed people that are not psychopaths. Soldiers.
Sure.
Soldiers.
Absolutely.
Killed people. They're not psychopaths.
No, you're right.
They were doing it. Dog Holliday, not a soldier.
Just the way you said it. Yeah.
Definitely just kill some of the people he killed. He definitely just killed because, although there were at times where he was given a badge, but that's not an excuse to kill people. Okay, we're
some gray area here.
Yeah, no,
we're wading out of the weeds.
I don't know.
Or like,
where any of that was going.
Little Shop of Horrors. You ever seen Little Shop of Horrors?
Is there a psychopathic dentist in that?
Steve Martin,
plays a dentist who's a psychopath.
I'll be a dentist.
I believe I read somewhere that dentists, as far as like professions go, dentists are one of the by profession most likely to commit suicide. Yep. I think medical doctor actually surpassed them.
Really?
I believe, but dentist is like pretty high on the list.
You ever seen the movie The Whole Nine Yards?
No.
You should see that.
Wait, which one is that?
It's with Chandler and hell's his name from from a friend's.
I thought you were still on Chandler.
Yeah.
That's oh no.
My God.
I had his name in my head a second ago.
Also, Bruce Willis and Michael Clark Duncan is in it. And,
I know Chandler as Benny from Fallout New Vegas. Ring-a-ding-ding, baby.
Ring-a-ding-ding.
Chandler Bing. Chandler Bing.
Yeah.
Played by Matthew Perry. Matthew Perry.
Yeah. But yeah, it's actually a really good movie about mafia, and it's a comedy.
And someone's a dentist in it.
Yeah, Matthew Perry's a dentist.
Okay.
Yeah. And then they keep bringing that statistic up to him through the whole movie.
That dentists are more likely
to commit suicide.
Find a suggestion in his head.
Well, they are trying to kill him through the whole movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we got on this whole tangent because we're talking. That movie it's got some problems. It's a problematic film, I think. And like there's
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Is that where? Okay, right.
What's the one about? Is it just called Santa Claus? That's about like Santa's young. Here's how he became Santa. And there's a character called like the Heat Miser in it or something, who's the reason why it's all cold. I thought that was scary. Is it
another one of those stop motion?
It's another Rankin Bass stop motion picture.
Yeah, those all gave me nightmares. I watched them gleefully as a child. Yay, cartoon! And then I'd go to sleep and have nightmares about being killed by an
abominable snowman
or a prospector pedo. Yeah,
but anyway, how did we get here?
I don't know.
How did we get here, man?
I don't know, man.
Whoa.
A Year Without Santa Claus. That was it.
Is that it?
The Year Without Santa Claus.
Maybe. Anyway.
Rankin Bass. Baskin Robbins. Carol Baskin.
Carol Baskin.